Yes,
So
ma'am.
I filed a notice of tender payment into the courts. Will
Uh,
you
so
be so kind to confirm under what law? Under what law does it say that it is not a legal payment, a legal tender?
I'm ready to take up the matter of the Natasha Ballard versus D23 LLC, which is an appeal from a dispossessory order in magistrate court. Ms. Ballard, as I mentioned, I have reviewed the petition that you filed with the affidavit that was accompanied it. And so did you wish to make any oral presentation here at the hearing, or do you want me to rely on what you have submitted in your briefs, which again is fine. You may do whichever you wish.
Sure. So from my position, I filed an affidavit of priority interest in the property. I don't understand how we can be at this point when I'm not a tenant and there's no contract for being a tenant. Um, the other party, the opposing party, says that they have interest in the property, saying that they have a sheriff's deed, which is what it's a color of title. It's not the title. There's no position of equity with that sheriff's deed. So, to my understanding, with there not being a contract, and I'm challenging the jurisdiction of this other entity. I'm requesting that this motion under the titles under the Rule 60V that this is thrown out. It just we don't have a contract. There's nothing to really argue here. So it's clearly displayed and stated in the affidavits that I submitted. And bottom line, we don't have a contract. The other entity does not own this property.
Okay.
I have priority interest and equity in this property.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ballard. As I said, I have had a chance to review the magistrate court file and the appeal materials that you filed in this case. One question I did have, Ms. Ballard, is that part of the order that was entered against you, which you are challenging here, right? That the magistrate judges, the purpose of this action is because the magistrate judge entered an order that said that you were not entitled to possession, and that and you're challenging that order. And I understand that part. But part of the order also requires that for you to challenge it, you're required to make some payment into the registry of the court. And my looking at the system, I don't see that any payments have been made. I think that that's part of Ms. Akpati's argument in a brief that she filed a couple of days ago, that you have not made a payment into the registry of the court to preserve your appeal rights. Can you tell me about that? If you have made a payment and maybe I just don't have it in my system, or if you haven't made a payment, can you tell me the basis for that?
I have. They did not ask for rent. They didn't put an affidavit to ask for rent. So, and there's no contract. But I have paid into the court of registry. The paperwork is there.
Can you tell me how much you paid into the court registry?
All of it. It's on a continuous basis until this matter is resolved. The last month and the remaining balance, everything is in compliance with the order from Magistrate Judge Brooks.
Okay. I am going to call on Ms. Akpati for her response right now, Ms. Ballard. And then, as I said, because you're the movement on this matter, I'm going to call on you and let you have a chance to respond. Okay. Ms. Akpati?
Your Honor, just to get straight to the point, no payment has been made. I did call the court this morning and there has been no payment made. So if Miss Ballard is saying that she has made the payment, could she provide to the court some form of um, evidence showing that she's made the payment? Because again, as of 15 minutes ago, no payment has been made, or the court is not aware of any payment being made.
Yeah, I have looked in both the magistrate court file, which is often where those payments will go. And I've looked in this action. And the financial documents don't indicate that any payment has been made in either case, other than the original, I think, $103 filing fee that was paid by the defendant in the magistrate court. Excuse me, by the defendant D23, the filing fee. Ms. Ballard, do you have any documentation? I'm looking at the file and I don't see anything that indicates payment. I'm happy to follow up with the court because sometimes the clerk gets a little bit behind, but do you have any documentation regarding when you made those payments or the amount of the payment?
It was a couple weeks ago when I filed it into the court of registry.
Okay, what did you file? Did you file like a proof of payment, or what did you file?
It is basically a money order.
Respectfully, Ms. Ballard, I don't, if you can provide me with some documentation of the payment, I'm happy to pursue that with the clerk of court and find out if there is some issue with it being credited to the wrong file or something like that. But absent any such documentation, there's no evidence that the required payment has been made either into the magistrate court or into the superior court file. And absent that payment being made, the order that was entered very clearly says that if tenant appeals the judgment and wishes to remain in possession of the property, those payments must be made. And so that would typically mean that the dispossessory order would be issued in stanter, and D23 LLC would be entitled to possession of the property in stanter, which would mean immediately. Do you have any additional documentation that you could perhaps email to Mr. Freehoff and copy Ms. Akpatian so that I could see it and then follow up with the clerk regarding what happened to a payment that you made?
So I tendered a payment into the court of registry. If my payment was not accepted, I would not have received a case number for this case right now. The payment was accepted. It had to have been in order to get this case number.
Actually,
so I have to feel bad.
Actually, that's not correct. So the file indicates, Ms. Ballard, the file indicates that you submitted an affidavit of poverty, and that poverty affidavit was granted for the filing fee. So you didn't have to pay a filing fee to be able to open this case.
Respectfully, I tendered a payment in the magistrate court.
Right. I'm not questioning, Ms. Ballard, that you did. What I'm saying is I need some documentation of that payment because there's no such payment reflected in the magistrate court. And so if you have a receipt, if you have a copy of the money order, if you have even a bank transaction indicating where you withdrew that money from, or where you obtained the money order, that would be some information that I could then go to the clerk and say, hey, I've got a party telling me that they made a payment and there's no record of it. Can you help me find this payment and why there's no record of it?
According to law, I tendered the payment, and I don't know if there's some type of mix up between both courts, but I filed it in both courts. The tender payment is there respectfully. Otherwise, I would not have been able. They even said this has to be satisfied in order to get a new case number for this appeal.
Ms. Ballard, I understand that. All I'm asking is, can you tell me what was the amount? When was the payment? Where did you get the money order from? That's the type of information that I would then be able to go to the clerk and confirm that information. And then they might be able to track the payment and figure out where it went if you made the payment.
All right. Can you hold one moment while I get the information? Thank you kindly.
Ms. Ballard, were you able to locate some materials regarding that matter?
Yes. So let me just turn on my camera real quick. Okay. So
yes, ma'am.
I filed a notice of tender payment into the courts, and Yeah, so to settle this account, I did file tender of payment to the courts, and I'm sure you can see the affidavit in there, and it has proper endorsement. It's been properly endorsed. And
Give me a moment to look in the file and see what I can locate. Okay. Okay. Thank you for your patience as I've sort of worked through this. Ms. Ballard, Ms. Akpati, I was able to locate the filing that I think that Ms. Ballard was referencing, which is a notice of tender of payment to settle and close account.
yes,
And is that the thing you were referencing, Ms. Ballard?
yes.
Okay, that was filed. It was filed in the magistrate court on December the 12th.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, my review of the notice that you filed. So first of all, I've spoken with the clerk of court, and they have no record of any payment. They have looked everywhere they can think of, including associated with your name, associated with this case, associated with the Superior Court case, and they can find no record of payment. But more importantly, Ms. Ballard, my review of your filing seems to indicate that you are rejecting the acknowledgement that there is that money would be any like it doesn't appear that you actually submitted legal tender of any sort to pay or satisfy this. You instead submitted some sort of signed, I know, some sort of authorized representative document, but no money order, no check, which I don't think they take, no cash, no certified check, anything like that. Is that an accurate statement? Am I correctly understanding what you filed, Ms. Ballard?
I filed a tender payment, and it didn't, I mean, the law says that I can tender a payment. It never stated how to pay it. So, I mean, I fulfilled the contract based on the order. I mean,
Ms. Akpati, other than the motion that you filed regarding the lack of payment and your statements here that there has not been a payment, what is your position on behalf of your client on this matter?
My position is that this matter should be dismissed. The Ms. Ballard has to comply with the order of the court before filing this appeal.
Okay. Ms. Ballard, I understand. I find, first of all, thank you for helping me understand what it was you filed, because originally when you were saying a money order or something like that, I was looking and I was not finding. And so I have reviewed what you filed now that I understand what I was supposed to be looking at. And, you know, due respect, ma'am, but it is not filing a paper that says I hereby tender payment that is not actually accompanied by a payment recognizable in legal acceptable tender in the United States. Then you have not made a payment under any legal definition that I am aware of. And so as a result of that,
what species?
Excuse me, Ms. Ballard, I'm speaking, and in a moment I'll let you respond if you would like, but you have to let me finish speaking.
Sure. Thank you.
So as I was saying, the motion, I think, is to dismiss the appeal of the dispossessory and to issue a dispossessory affidavit in stanter, which would seem to be appropriate here because there's been no payment made. And in the absence of a payment, there can be no appeal. And that is the position that D23 is taking. Would you like to respond to that before I rule, Ms. Ballard?
Yes. So, I mean, on the order, it did not specify how to pay. What species of payment is on there to pay. It was not specific.
I'm sorry, are you saying it wasn't specific in amount or it wasn't specific in method?
In method, yes.
Okay. I disagree. This is a standard order, and the vast majority of everyone I've ever dealt with that deals with these orders understands that when it says tenant must, in capital letters, make the following payments into the court registry by the time specified, everyone understands that I've typically dealt with, that means money that is recognizable as legal tender in the United States, which would either be cash or a money order or a certified check. And in the absence of those things being paid, then the court wouldn't have any choice but to dismiss the appeal. And so
I gave you a bill of exchange, which is the same thing.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
I gave you a bill of exchange, which is the same thing.
No, ma'am, it's not. A bill of exchange is not recognized as legal tender in the United States, and therefore it would not satisfy the requirement that tenant must make the following payment into the court registry.
Will you be so kind to confirm under what law?
For that reason, I am dismissing case number.
I mean, ma'am, I object. I object. I mean, it's there. Under what law does it say that it is not a legal payment, a legal tender?
So, in all honesty, I don't know the answer. I could do some research and find the answer, but Ms. Ballard, it's your obligation as the movant to provide the information that the court requires in order to understand your case, to accept your case. And you have not provided me, more importantly, with any documentation or a legal citation that would provide me with some sort of basis to accept your providing me with this note of exchange as legal tender. As I said, my understanding of the law is that a note of exchange is not legal tender recognized in the United States, and therefore it does not constitute a payment.
You have not provided me an answer, but under what law?
Yes, ma'am, I did. The answer I gave you was that it was your obligation. Mr. Freehouse, please mute
ma'am,
Ms.
I need
Ballard
to finish what I have to say.
Mr. Freehouse, please mute Ms. Ballard if she's going to continue to speak over me. Thank you. Ms. Ballard, you've been muted because you continue to speak over me, which is disrespectful to the court.
I'm not trying to be respectful.
Ms. Ballard,
and not properly.
You are continuing to speak, and Ms. Ballard, stop. I understand that you do not like the outcome. I understand that you believe that that legal tender or notice of exchange that you gave me should count, but it does not. The answer to this question is that the order that was entered says that tenant must make the following payments into the court registry, and there were no payments made into the court registry, and the filing that you submitted does not constitute a payment of legal tender into the court registry and does not constitute compliance with the order that you make a payment into the court registry. And therefore, the case is going to be dismissed. Anything else that the parties need? Ms. Ballard, you may pursue whatever appellate rights you wish to pursue.
You cannot make a ruling over something that you don't know.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ballard.
You cannot make a ruling over something you can't know. You saying you don't know is an unacceptable response, respectfully.
Ms. Ballard, as I said, my answer was, if you would like to direct me to case law that says that what you submitted is legal, Ms. Ballard.
Is this a court of law? It is unacceptable for you.
This matter is adjourned.
All this time, Ballard was referring to paperwork, affidavits, and so-called tender filings, insisting that documents alone could substitute for an actual payment required by the court. But when the judge examined what had been submitted, it became clear that no money had ever been paid into the court registry as the magistrate court order explicitly required. The Superior Court explained that filing a notice claiming payment is not the same as making one, and that unsigned instruments, bills of exchange, or self-styled legal tender documents have no recognized value under United States law. Without proof of a lawful payment, the appeal could not proceed. The court dismissed the case not because of ownership or contracts, but because the most basic procedural requirement had never been met. The ruling served as a clear reminder. Courts operate on statutes and recognized legal standards, not personal interpretations of sovereignty or paperwork designed to bypass them.